On the dot, folks. One thing I like to be is timely. So I posted on Twitter I would be streaming at 8, and we'll see what happens. Last night was a really, really good show. A couple friends came on, a lot of good audience interaction. I highly recommend checking out last night's show if you get time. It's nice when you're doing chores or dishes or whatever, this and that, and instead of listening to tunes or news or whatever, tune into my show. So just had a lot of dumb things that just happened that went wrong before the show, so I'm a little flustered at the moment. Just getting my act together. I thought it'd be fun to have a little look at this. Let me adjust the lights so they're kind of working properly for the visuals. So, Carlos Pacheco. Carlos Pacheco is one of my favorite comic book artists. And it's very sad. He passed away, I think, a year ago or something. It was very tragic. He was pretty young in the sense of he was probably in his 50s or something. I don't know. He's just got a very, very clean style. I like his figures. There's obviously no shortage of detail and stuff. This is highly detailed stuff. But there's something about his work that is, it's very heroic. At the same time, it has a kind of humanism to it. I think the other thing to note also is that Jesus Mourinho is, I think he always inks Pacheco, or maybe not always throughout all time, but they seem to have gotten matched up, and I think they're it's just a really perfect team, because inkers are like the bass players of comics. They don't get the credit, so to speak, that they deserve. They can make or break artwork. They have a lot of interpretive decisions to make, and not only that, they're extremely highly skilled craftsmen. So to be an inker in the comic book industry, you're pretty insanely talented. You'd have to be very talented. Now, granted, Marvel has been putting out very, very second-rate crap. It's one of those equity art, equity in comics type of a thing where, all these guys that are hyper super talented are kind of, I don't know where they are, because they're hiring hacks, and there's a lot of female artists that are more about being cute, and less about actual, I don't know, just really high quality comic book illustration. Now, comics is a medium, it's not a genre. Superheroes are a genre. So, for example, film is a medium, and let's say comedy is a genre, or action is a genre. So when you say, "Oh, I'm going to see a film," people won't say, "Oh, what superhero film are you watching?" They don't have this association that all films are superhero films. It's just but in comics, people do. Now, I'm not apologetic about loving superheroes. I'm not at all apologetic. I know that the mainstream of people, and it's probably especially in the dissident right, they have a, I don't know, there's a lot of hatred for the Marvel movies and all that stuff. Fair, fine, whatever. You're entitled to your and I certainly don't like a lot of it, and it's getting worse and worse and worse, like intolerably worse. Anyway, where am I going with this? So I guess all I'm trying to say is that, comics, graphic novels have a lot of other genres in them that are wicked, super cool. Detective adventure, romance, history. There's just so many cool things that you can enjoy. And I could actually maybe feature a bit more of that, but I just wanted to kind of show uh, Pacheco's art. And now I'm not as good as these guys, so I'm not gonna pretend that I am. But you have to have something to kind of inspire and strive towards. I'm That's the other thing too, is like I'm not trying to look like him either. My style is actually based very much on like the 1970s kind of comics, like that sort of. This is something. It's not. It's a little maybe more modern than that, I suppose. But anyway, just talking, talking, talking. Um, and for today's drink, I am having some black tea. So, gotta get those antioxidants, baby. Mm. Oh, yeah. Mm. I was never a big tea drinker, tea guy, so to speak, until I moved to Asia. And not even in Japan, that never grabbed me. But when I was in Taiwan, then I lived with a homestay family, and the father of the homestay family was a Tai Chi master. That's a long, interesting story. Um, there's actually some funny parts to that story, but he's very, very traditional Chinese dude, and he would do like I wouldn't call it tea ceremony because that's more of a Japanese thing, but he would do have Chinese tea every night before bed, and I don't know. People in America don't understand that it's a type of like an art form essentially. There's really beautifully, exquisitely made teapots that are lovely. There's the tea in China is like wine in Europe. There's many, many kinds, and this is like very, very high quality stuff. There's some that's extremely expensive. Um, Taiwan as an island is very, very well suited for growing tea and the cultivation of tea. It's kind of neat. Um, I actually thought about having a tea house, like a Chinese style tea house, when I moved back to America. Excuse me. I even here's check this out. I got something near my table that I'm gonna share with you. It's a little, a little dusty. But this is a lovely little example of what I'm talking about. So, it's beautifully handcrafted teapot. Right now, I'm just using it for decoration, but I used to actually steep tea in this and drink tea from this. And then there's some beautiful poetry on it. You can see the kind of nice little wood carving thingamajig that you hold it on. So it's a culture. It's real nice. Anyway, be careful I don't drop this. It's very precious. So hold on. Okay. But you didn't tune in to talk about tea, did you? Let's see what we got going on here. I'm gonna do some inking. And I'm just doing my usual musing. Let's see who's here. Crusader 21, the mighty Crusader. Good to see you. Have you read The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings? I have not read it. I hate saying no, but I saw the movie because it's it's sort of lazy in a way to just watch a movie, and I know movies never compare to the books and blah blah. I know. But It's funny because back in the days when I was an avid reader, I read mostly nonfiction. I even kind of had a chip on my shoulder about it, where I was like, I want to learn things about life, and I don't have time for, fiction. I was just in, I want to learn X, Y, Z, P, D, Q. I want to develop myself as a person, and so I must study, all kinds of stuff that I was interested, philosophy and various things like that. But then one year, again, when I was living in Taiwan, I met this American dude. How I met him is actually a really cool story in and of itself. But he's very, very much into literature. And I kind of got the idea like, you know what, I should sort of stop being biased about this and like read some literature and get literate, you know what I mean, in the sense of like get some kind of education and read some classics or whatever, things that I might enjoy. And I at least had like a guy there to advise me in a way, because my angle is like if I'm going to put invest like a lot of time into reading a book, if I get so far through the book and then I'm like, this book sucks, I just wasted a lot of my fucking time, and I don't have time to waste, I'm not like, to me, time is like, the currency of life in a way. Like time and energy are the two things that, matter the most in many regards. So he helped me out. That's when I started reading various novels, and I'd say that one of my favorite is 100 Years of Solitude, um, Gabriel Garcia Marquez. What's that called? Something realism, super realism, or surreal. There's a word for that type of literature, but it's in a sense it's surrealism in literature, and he kind of, I guess, invented this particular genre through that book. I don't know about that author very well, other than that one book that I read, but it was quite astounding. Um, it's a real journey, I mean, it's a real investment to read 100 Years of Solitude, Um, and of course, there's something very like kind of like Latin about it, like that kind of whatever that type of culture, um, which is fine, whatever, it's fine. And then later in life, I learned about his life and like where he grew up and the conditions of how like he essentially lived in like a village that was essentially like in the jungle, and then there was some kind of like banana plantation corporation that like settled in and you know gave work or whatever to the townspeople, and it completely changed the this culture. Um, the people, even though they're sort of Latin in sort of heritage, like from Spain, etc., there is a very strong crossover into the native Indian population, into their culture. Um, just fascinating stuff, really interesting stuff. Um, so where am I going with all this? I guess that's my long answer. You know me, I have like all these long answers with huge tangents on them. I just can't seem to give a simple answer. But I forget the actor's name, the British actor who played Sauron. Um, Famous actor. He did a lot of horror roles. Interesting thing about him is, like, I guess he would read Lord of the Rings every year. It was sort of a kind of a little tradition that he had with himself, you know. Um, and he's something of a badass. Like, I guess he was a major badass in World War II and this and that. Interesting character. Mm. It's also kind of interesting. I had somebody brought this up like the other day about how when that new sort of Netflix version of the Rings of Darkness or whatever the fuck it's called, like the new Netflix version where they have like black people in the new Lord of the Rings. um, Somebody was mentioning how like it's kind of the normies or whatever that they came out against that, like, and how like that this is like, you're this is something sacred in our culture and you're defiling it, with this kind of race swapping type stuff. I agree. We all know how it works. Like they with parentheses have to destroy our culture. I think a big part of remaking movies and whatnot is is literally about that. It's kind of saying, okay, well, how can we deconstruct this? They're making another Ghostbusters, and that's not even a cultural icon. I mean, that's like on the level of Lord of the Rings, right? That's not even a big deal. But yeah, I was sort of surfing Netflix, and they had it looked like a movie. I don't know. I don't think it was like a TV series, but it was Beowulf, and I'm like, all right, tune into this for a bit, check it out, and straight out of the gate, very, very, it's very milk toast. It's very like not anywhere near the kind of like heroicism that it should be at. But I was just like, well, I'm just gonna kind of see if I can just enjoy this and kind of zone out type of a thing. And like the Beowulf character is just this kind of like mediocre type model character guy. I don't know, just sort of like a TV actor sort of guy, that just doesn't have any really really true heroicism about him. He's not really projecting that. And whatever, they come back from somewhere. They're coming back to their town village thingy, and the camera's sort of moving around, showing the different people in the town doing the various things they do. And then at one point, they have a close up of a black woman. I was like, all right, change the channel, change the channel. And it's like, that doesn't even, like, I'm not trying to say, like, I don't like black women or whatever, but it's like fucking inappropriate, it's just like irritating. We know what it's for, and it's meant to be demoralizing. I don't know. Anyway, I just feel like these kind of topics aren't really terribly interesting, though, because it's like stuff we all know already. Anyway, that's why I'm making content. So, who else is here? We've got, is that Vardabach? Awesome evening there. Good to have you. Good to have you. So yeah, last night's show was great. Started off just with Nullis. This is sort of a group of pillar artists, the founding artists of the White Art Collective that I'm in. It's a private group, and I had asked the guys and gals, hey, I'm going on to do a show. who's in, like who would like to join me, because it's really really nice to have guests on while I'm working, and instead of just me talking. I mean, that's why I like you guys to engage me with questions, conversations, topics, anything. You know what I mean? And it kind of it's this in a sense is really a hangout session. You know what I mean? Um, but Nullis, there was an article that had come out that really was really, really important, and he felt, very compelled to talk about it. So he, got into that, and Dave Martell popped in surprisingly, which was cool. I didn't expect that, but like what I do is I kind of leave the link out for the gang, so to speak, and it might I maybe I don't really remember if I like sort of like sent him a separate link or something. Maybe I did, I guess, but um, that was cool. Dave's always welcome, and always has something interesting to say, something fun to say. There's always like a good laugh or two, to be had. Good energy in general, Um, and then my buddy from Northern Ireland popped in. That was another surprise. So, like, all right, that was very cool. Jack White. I'm kind of wondering if Jack has. I think it's been a while, really, since he's made any new music. Um, right now, to my knowledge, like Luke Imminent Rain is putting out a lot of stuff. Harith's got a new album out. In fact, on the White Art Collective chat group, Jeff Winston has asked if anybody would like to do a review of her album. So if anyone listening is interested, maybe contact me or Jeff or Hirith. That'd be a very cool thing. Um, excuse me. I have some cool news to share as well. You guys probably know Greg Johnson from Counter Currents. I highly recommend counter-currents.com. He contacted me today, really just to tell me that, like he knows somebody who's looking to hire somebody for some art, freelance art, and that's really really nice. That's kind of sweet that I'm positioned in such a way where people in the community know about me, and then they need like a book cover or who knows what, and oh hey, let me get you in touch with Donald Kent. That's pretty sweet. So I'm really close with Spencer Quinn, who does regular articles for Countercurrents. And I've actually spoken to Greg before about another graphic novel that he approved. He had his editors look at and this and that, and I feel ashamed that that kind of never came to pass. That's my fault, essentially. I don't know if I would sort of like frame it or explain it that way. That the thing is that I got some paid work on another comic thing where it's like, and it was with Mark Brauman as well. So I thought, this is still kind of in our sphere, and it's paid work. I'm gonna make a lot of money from this, so I'm gonna kind of set my own script down for a minute and go do this other thing. A minute is like more like 2 months or whatever. And then I don't really recall what sort of happened after that. I essentially dropped the ball, Or I got caught up in some other things that were important, I don't quite remember. Anyway, I'm going to zoom in a bit on this so maybe it's a little more enjoyable to see. Whoop. how's the crap? Okay, there it is. So what's new with you guys? Crusader, what's your interest in, or why did you ask about Lord of the Rings? Or The Hobbit? Are you reading it right now? I certainly like, that kind of period work, that period genre. It's funny, I never ever thought to myself, like, if I were to write a story that took place in like that time period or that world, that kind of swords and sorcery world. Um, I certainly like that stuff. I can remember there's an actual book called Swords and Sorcery that I read in high school. It was quite enjoyable. Um, they made a movie about it. It's a little bit cheesy. It's like, whatever. But what else? There's a book from DC Comics. I should say, like a little mini series, I suppose, of the Atom. Now, you guys may know the Atom as like he's one of these like miniature superheroes. Is can grow really small and then come back to normal size. Like Ant-Man in Marvel Comics. I don't know which character came first, but so there's in the comics world. This is sort of well known. It's one of the epic uh, story arcs out there, and what happens is that the Atom, he shrinks down, and he's sort of in some kind of like a jungle in, I don't know, maybe Brazil or Central America, but something goes wrong and he can't go back to his normal size. And somehow he finds this civilization of like small people, you know, that are, they're kind of different. Their skin's yellow color, and then he goes on this sword and sorcery adventure. It's like yeah, sword and sorcery. So um, cool as heck. Like they're riding frogs around, and they. I don't know. It's just really. It's the thing is, it's really really beautifully illustrated, and that's always my gig. I'm always like, you know, how good is the art? That's what I want to know. Let's see what else is happening. We got a new comment, and it is Corey Simmerock. Welcome, Corey. Good to have you. Hey, gang. Haven't had a whole lot of time for streams lately, but I'm glad you are still documenting all this. Still, nice work, Donald. Thank you very, very much. I'm just kind of coming to the end of the first issue of a 6-issue arc. It's kind of agonizing how long this is going to take, but it's like, this is my life, this is what I've always wanted to do, and I'm doing it, kind of thing. I've actually stopped taking freelance work for quite a while. I think since like Greg Johnson recently hooked me up with some freelance work, I'm going to do it. I feel like, there's certain cases with certain people that, it's wise to take those jobs, if you know what I mean. And some jobs I'm more well cut out than others. Like I had on Rob Rundo from it's like the Patriot Front media group, Will to Rise, and he initially was looking for people to do like T-shirt designs, and I have done T-shirt designs. It's fine, but it's kind of not my thing. And his particular look, graphic style, what have you, that he wants requires a specific software. and it's like highly graphic. Whereas I'm an illustrator, you know, I draw and ink and paint, and I don't make art with computers, like computer generated images. Other people do and are very good at it. Um, so I kind of passed the job on, um, but you know, as soon as I get all the pages inked, I will be figuring out some kind of a fundraiser for this to get the first issue colored and lettered. And so with coloring and lettering, it's digital. Um, it's expensive. You know, I got a good guy, really professional. Um, blah blah blah. So whatever, that's a thing. That's where that's going, and I've got all kinds of like several publishing options. You know, in a way, like when I'm gonna put out each book separately and then repackage the whole thing as a graphic novel. Now, I'm not entirely looking to make like any real money on the comics published separately. Excuse me, rather to use that as, in a sense, marketing, you know, to get it so that people get to know the story, get to know the characters, and have a sense of urgency or anxiousness to find out what happens, you know, to get invested in the story. Um, I know for a fact that once people do learn what the story is and where it's going and the things that it says, per se, um, there's going to be a great deal of interest, not just in the DR, but in specifically, I'd say like the Comicsgate community. Comicsgate is essentially people who want to make comics great again. You know, that are they're tired of all the woke agenda shit. You know, and that very just normal people. You know what I mean? Like just good common folk. You know, our community is very. I don't know. We're very edgy, but there's a lot of big brains in the dissident right. There's a lot of people that are historically literate and you know literate with philosophy and a range of other things. You know, we can shoot the shit, you know, and kind of around the coffee in the break room, kind of, you know, that kind of stuff or whatever. But I would say that there's a higher level of sophistication in the people in the dissident right. Obviously, that's not meant as an insult, you know, to the Comicsgate community or folks. But just looking at the shows and the content, they're way more laid back. I don't know that there's really any political discussion. They will occasionally go into, well, that's actually not entirely true. Like John De La Rosa's show is almost entirely political. Um, but I know a lot of those guys, you know, they're kind of like burned out with this stuff. We're getting, yeah, we get buckets of shit dumped on our head every day from the media, you know, so I don't blame them. I'm actually right at the crux of saying like I really don't know if I should like be on Twitter anymore. You know, I mean, I can't kind of not be on Twitter, you know, for various reasons, just in terms of like, you know, that's where it's going down. That's as far as, you know, it's kind of where that's where our people are, you know, like, in obviously Telegram as well, but, I'm just, I don't know. Maybe it's not Twitter. It's the news on Twitter. It's the algorithm, my algorithm. Um, but even beyond that, like the shit with like this transgender shooting in a Christian elementary school. Fuck, God, I mean, like, this is the new domestic terrorism. And if you see the way that, like, the transgender community is reacting and responding to it, this is like, oh, we're just getting started. They're hot to trot on this whole thing. So this is a major chapter, in like the deconstruction of America, essentially. Pretty harsh. So that's kind of the whole deal, is just like, how do you keep your sanity through all this, And I feel like chill streams are helpful. Chill streams are helpful. But I'm kind of thinking maybe more about getting back into just talking about, like, sort of my autobiography, like things that, using this channel to kind of document my life in a way. I've already done a huge amount of work, in terms of discussing white identity politics and these kinds of topics. And I'll continue to do that as well. Oh, wow, we got a lot of people here all of a sudden. Let's check the chat. All right, who we got? Okay, let's look. I am going to read some chat things here. It says, Vardabox says, got a cool idea for you and Dave. Similar to your guys' last project, but different. My last project was the Bizarre Archives, and it's should be within reach, but I can't see it. Oh, here it is. Okay, the Bizarre Archives. So that was our last project. I'll put that on screen while I read the comments. I got a cool idea. I'll share with you guys in the near future. Aw, I'm all excited, and then you tell me later. Just have a basic idea, but adding bits to it as I think of more. Is it a book publishing thing? Hit me up, man. So, greetings, everyone. The almighty Nullis is here. Good to see you. Good to have you. Such a great show last night, my brother. Yes, very, very, very good. Okay. I guess while we're here, we can kind of indulge a little bit in some eye candy. It's really interesting working with Dave Martell. Like, so this particular story, Dave is like, we have such a great chemistry. Anyway, this particular story is about this guy that goes mad, and he's I guess there's some kind of mold in his house that drives him mad, and he ends up killing his landlord or something like that. So I'm like, oh, that's a disturbing story, a weird, creepy kind of story. And I just kind of, envision this dude. He's, if you can kind of notice, the background is like the bars of a prison cell, and then discuss shit, and then he's covered with blood. But I think these arms here, and how it's as if you're standing over the body, and the cuts on the arms, and of course the blood and stuff. The fact that he's sitting in the corner, in a sense, is to sort of express that he feels cornered, and that was the idea of the stories, like this increasing paranoia, So it's just me kind of taking the ideas and interpreting them in my way. I feel as if, like, this piece here, I don't know, I'm almost like scared of this piece in a way, because okay, Vardabox says his idea involves mythological characters, but new story. Talk to, like, I don't know, connect with Dave and I on Telegram. So yeah, Dave's like, he, in a sense, was like, this type of creature cannot be described. And I'm like, okay, then how do I draw it? But he's it's essentially, like a H.P. Lovecraft kind of satanic, demonic mishmash abomination, and it should just be all of this shit kind of smashed together in this grotesque monstrosity. Ooh, how about that for adjectives? And so, and the story is underground. This kid goes underground and yada yada yada. So like the monster itself, I think I feel like it's inventive in a way. I was really pleased with how like that goat head right there kind of evolved. You see how his ears turned into eyes. I'm gonna try to use my these eyes here, and then that with these like spider eyes. It's sort of so the idea of the spider. These are actually more like kind of like crab legs almost. They're just bizarre. This disgusting tongue, and then of course these crabby things here, the tendrils, yada yada yada. The image of the crow and the pig at the top, believe it or not, is actually from a nightmare that I had years ago. Only it wasn't a crow and a pig. It was like a baby that was like aborted and had two heads, and it was looking at me. It was very, very disturbing. But the thing that I think that goes unnoticed, or maybe I'd like more attention to, is actually the background and like the use of tone to create space. I really love the device of his shadow in the water and the just the motion of him wading through the water towards this creature. He's probably hypnotized or something like this. And it looks as if it's going to eat him or something. Very detailed illustrations. Each one of those would be great. Poster. Yeah, I why don't I make posters? I think Dave and I had some idea about doing that, and between the two of us, we're so damn busy that we didn't really get around to it or something. But that's something we should be doing. Let me see what else I can find. This is another one. I showed this one the other day, so I'm not sure I want to show it again. But you can break it down into interesting like parts, I guess, if you will, like these sort of smoky, wispy animal human hybrid faces. This kind of twisted. This is actually inspired by a who's the guy that made Hellboy? Guillermo del Toro. There's a really great movie that he made. I think it's called Mother. And it's about like a ghost in this house that, the she lost her baby or something, and it's zoom out if you can, so we can see the whole composition. I didn't know you could not see the whole composition. Is that better? Because I'm seeing through my phone, so I can't entirely see what you're seeing. But I'm trying to zoom in actually so you can see details. So like if I were to zoom in on that, I don't know how well you can see it. It's a little shaky, sorry. But that's what I was talking about. So maybe we'll do one more, and then I'll get back to doing some artwork here. Let's see. Am I too close or not close enough? Somebody tell me. Somebody talk to me. So I love this piece right here. Really love this piece. The Crypt of St. Peter's Church by Robert C. Booth. Now I'm talking like a certain guy who lives in the Twilight Zone. So let's see. How does it look? Zoom in if you can. All right, hold on. Let me read. Very detailed. Looks like a dragon mixed with a tiger. Zoom out if you can. See the whole composition. So presumably you can see everything here. Of course, the page is a little bent, but story is of a woman who's possessed, and this priest is keeping her kind of like, I don't know if they're catacombs, but they're essentially, it's like a basement under the church. Interesting thing to note again is this background stuff. I like to give my art a sense of depth of field. Depth of field is like how deep it goes in. So you can see it's almost infinite into the darkness. Like you don't, because if everything's right up front, it's kind of amateur. I feel like that's very amateur. Whereas I think you get the idea. A lot is going on here as well in terms of textures and lighting effects and such. You've got the main light up here. You've got these lights in the back, but so the shadow on his face is sort of a classic comic book device to sort of indicate like he's actually the bad guy. He's the priest, and he looks like he's praying with a rosary, but you know the shadow and the kind of the snaky, sneaky look in his eyes. Yeah, I'm foreshadowing something. So when someone's enjoying the book, they're reading away and having a good time, enjoying the stories. They open up to this page and they're like, the new story, the next story, the crypt of St. Peter's Church. And then, you know, before they even begin, I set the tone I set an image in their mind as to like how they're going to envision it while they're reading. You know, when they learn about like that character or that character or that character, they already have a face, you know, to associate with the name. So it's pretty awesome, I feel, to partake in the story. You know what I'm saying? In a way, I have like an impact or a say in a way, like in the story, and at least in how people envision it. So that's my little thing here. Let me see if there's any comments. I guess that's all we got. So there you go. And now you know, the Bizarchives. So I urge you guys to get this copy. You can easily find it on Amazon. It's definitely something you're going to want to collect. Good read and good art. So there you go. Amazon. All right, and now we're back. Let's see, who are we going to focus on here? Which character do I want to do? I'll figure that out. So, what's new with you guys? What's shaking in your world? Any good movies, books, shows that you guys can recommend? Last night I was searching Michael Fassbender, who's one of my favorite actors. You know, he's Magneto in the X-Men, and he's just been in a bunch of interesting films. He was in 300, surprisingly. I had to, when I saw 300, I didn't know who he was as an actor. So I had to kind of like go back and check it out again and be like, oh, that dude. Probably the famous scene is where Xerxes' representative, who's this like hairy black dude or whatever, he's like, okay, you know, we're here to take over or what have you, and Michael Fassbender's characters, they're building a wall, you know, to sort of block the hot gates there, and they notice that the wall is like made up of the bodies of like these Muslim characters, these, or I should say Persian characters that came before, or like in the previous battle, you know. And like when you finally kind of like see that, it has this horrifying kind of quality to it, you know. And then Fassbender's character sort of like leaps through the air and cuts off the hand of the, the black Persian guy who's trying to whip him or whatever. It's a very, very dramatic scene. Um, what's interesting, I think, about him is that he's half German, half Irish. And that is a combination you never, never see. So I just find that I'm really interested in like European ethnicity in general. You know, like I can tell the difference between a Korean and a Japanese person. You know, just by looking at them. It's a bit of a hobby that I kind of have. You know, I just find it interesting to look at the physiognomy, I think it's called, the physical structure of people's faces and guesstimate, you know, like, so like if I'm with just white people, you know, I'll be like, okay, I can tell you are part Polish and part, you know, German or so, you know, whatever. And it's just a kind of a fun thing that a hobby, I guess, in a way. It's a strange hobby, but anyway, where am I going with this? So yeah, there's no shortage of ideas on cool things that could be done. It's just, you know, try to imagine coming home from your job and then having another job, you know, which is your dream stuff, you know. Very detailed. Zoom in. Crusader says, you said you like nonfiction. A good book would be the collection of 3 books, 10 Years of War by Peter Kemp. Maybe you could tell me a little bit more about that book. Like, give me a little pitch for it. I thought Michael Fassbender was Swedish and Irish. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's the beautiful thing about not being an egocentric douchebag is that when you're wrong, you thank people for correcting you. So you say, hey, thanks for correcting me. I learned something. You know what I mean? Like, I know people that will not admit they're wrong no matter what. You know, like, no matter what, you know, like, I'm not wrong. And that to me is, I don't know if infantile is the word, but like it's obviously very childish, and obviously that constitutes pretty much the majority of the left, you know. So here we have our character using his laser shield. So when the colorist gets a hold of that, he'll do some cool stuff, make it kind of maybe, I'm sort of wondering whether maybe like a light yellowish, transparent kind of color tone, whatever, you know, that I can get to. So color has so much to do with conveying meaning in art and mood, a huge, huge part of it. Was at the bookstore the other day, and I found a really, really great book on color, and it's the sort of kind of book that you would, people who do artwork for movies and that, like, you know, like storyboarding and this type of stuff, and it was just a real nice look at color theory and how oh wow, this marker is like so thin. You can, it's also a little dry. I gotta find a better one. So you could, for example, you'd see like one scene of, like, say, a castle on a mountain, you know, something like that, and you'd see it at, say, like dusk and nighttime and evening and fall and summer, and, you know, this kind of, and just the different type of lighting that goes into it totally changes the mood of it. It's quite powerful, and I don't know, I guess I feel like I'd like to do more with color, but there's just only so many things you can do in a day. There's only so many hours. If you go to my website, kent-art.weebly.com, you'll see some paintings, some fine artwork. My buddy Flash Gorgon recently told me that that's the stuff that he likes the best of all the work that I do. And I wouldn't mind doing more, but I feel like sort of like fine art or still art, if you will. It's one image, and it can be, I'm not knocking it or whatever, but what's great about comics is that it's a narrative, you see, and I get to be a filmmaker, which is freaking great. That's a fantastic book. Oh, see, now if Nellis knows about it, then it's got to be a good book. 0022 is here. Welcome, sir. Presuming you're a sir. Let's read some more comments. Cascadia Patriot is here. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Evening, Donald. I enjoyed the conversation with you, Nolis, Dave, and Jack. Good article discussed. That was a great show. It was such a great show. Like I said, I asked my buddies in the White Art Collective, the Pillar Artists, hey guys, join me. People are busy. They live in different time zones. It's kind of hard to hook that up, but we did a great show last night. So Crusader is continuing. Over the course of 3 books, Peter Kemp describes his life as a volunteer in the Spanish Civil War for the Nationalists, a member of the British SOE, which I don't know what that stands for, in World War II, and arms dealer. Wow, in Asia, Southeast Asia, wild. Oh, that sounds like an amazing read. Jimmy, the Italian. Hey, how you doing? Welcome, Jimmy. How you doing? Way Ben. Are you the same guy as American Zarathustra? The answer is yes. And hi. Welcome, Jimmy. Glad to have you. Welcome to the community. It's funny, this channel is, if you look at the YouTube channel, you can see it says American Zarathustra. And I don't know that I retired that per se, but I'm just rebranding myself and reinventing myself. And the focus is obviously the arts, so this is what I'm doing, with my, I will continue to do shows, I'm just kind of like gradually getting there. I have some good news that Greg Johnson's coming on my channel. We just talked a bit earlier today, and I invited him on, and so the thing is, I said, like, obviously he knows that my channel is about the arts and culture and our art, and the Dissonant Right. I don't know if I like this music. But I'm like, okay, so something related to the arts is probably a good thing. And then, of course, if you want to promote any books you've got, like, of course, go right ahead. So he's excited. He's like, oh, let me think of something, And, him and I can probably come up with a lot to talk about, like a lot to talk about. But I wanted to sort of help feature him, feature his company, etc. So, I'm excited about that. My connection, well, I had reached out to him, I don't know, like 2 years ago or something, about a book project, another graphic novel. And that, I gave him the script, and he had his editors look at it. He approved it. And I was talking about this earlier, like, I got a job with Mark Brahman. So I'm just kind of repeating myself for people just showing up to the channel. So that should be exciting. I have a buddy, D. Morehouse, who has been on some of the Imperium Art shows, and he just started a Substack. He's got a new article on there about how language/linguistics predetermine reality, or I don't know if that was the best description, but we had been talking about that on my Telegram, how the left, like central to the strategy of the left, is the changing of the definition of words in order to create reality, to create perception. I mean, like in a sense, what is transgenderism but the manipulation of like language, and like what is law but the interpretation of language. And it's even, I think, on an esoteric level, you could even say that like language manifests in reality or manifests reality. So I gotta maybe change the music though a little. So I want to reach out to more and more people and kind of get back on the horse again with my channel, create some good content for you folks. What's going on here with the comments? Reading. SOE means Special Operations Executive. In China, they call it reblanding. You make fun of Chinese people, you not do that. You no can have a General Tso chicken, no more. It's number one taste. Very good. I can do a pretty good Chinese accent because I lived over there for a long time. Cascadia Patriot says, I always like hearing your thoughts and perspectives from Hungary. Oh, he's talking to Nullis. Well, you don't want to hear my thoughts on Hungary? I had a Hungarian girlfriend once. Yo, Anthony Chaman. Help me out here. Anthony, welcome to the community. Awesome to have you here. Thank you. And I'm reading the comments. Nullis says, thank you again. I've been told I have a foot on each continent. You do. You're a very unique person. You guys should listen to last night's show. There's so much stuff that went down. It was very cool. Jimmy says, which book was this? I love the topic of science of language. Well, it's an article, not a book. I'll see if I can link it in the below, wherever the communication thingy below is on YouTube. Signum Fide is here. Welcome again. You ever listen to Arvo Part? I don't know what that is, so I would say no. Jimmy the Italian says, each word potentially could be turned into another word in a variety of ways. Yeah, it's a excellent, interesting, and a deep topic, so it's something we can muse on. Anthony says, it's Anthony from earlier today, bud. Oh, all right. Good to have you back. For instance, prefixes and suffixes. Right. Here, what we're talking about in terms of, like, in that article is the use of language to frame things in a certain way. So here's an interesting, it's such a big topic, and it's like kind of hard to sort of isolate things, but when I talk to people, especially leftists, but anybody in politics, I'll listen and then I'll say, okay, when you frame the topic that way, with that choice of words, you are limiting your perspective of the truth. And people get upset when you do that because they don't want to admit they're wrong. They don't want to learn anything. There's always like some dumb shit that you got to deal with. But all well and good, that's like a little example of kind of like how language works. And certainly, like, I don't know, every time I tune into Twitter, I do it through a certain browser that has like, leftist Democrat bullshit on it, so they're always lying essentially and twisting what's going on in their description of, like, Marjorie Taylor Greene said this and it's disgusting, or this thing happened and that thing happened. And if it doesn't fit the leftist narrative, then it's bad, and so they're always gonna. And it's one thing to just lie out and out, but what I'm talking about here is the use of words. So, like, the other day on the show last night, I was talking about how just the word white has become a dirty word. You know, like if you talk to white people about being white, I don't know, like I don't know, maybe like 20 years ago, would they have flipped out about that the way they do now? It's like a stigma, you know. We got a huge comment here. Let's see what that was. Um, I suppose my rant seemed more random without the first comment. That's okay. Arvo part would probably the saddest piece of music of all time. Summa for strings. Maybe I can look it up. People, okay, Jimmy says people subconsciously know people's choice of words, body language, social cues. It's instinctive to some degree, but also mean more than surface level communication. Yeah, that's interesting because like there's certain people that I know that when I talk to them, I make sure that I look in their eyes because like specifically business people, they're reading you. They're like they don't they don't care even the words coming out of your mouth. They're reading you, and it's almost a form of intimidation where they're kind of like watching you almost like a cat watches a bird, they're just waiting for you to slip up. They're watching for inconsistencies. It's like a little like, okay, you know, relax, bud. I'm not here to like, I'm not gonna do anything bad or whatever. But yeah, it's. I feel like knowing how to read people is a survival skill. I'm gonna have to turn the music down. It's a little loud for me. Mm, sorry. So I once had a job where I was working in public. This is many years ago, but I'm working in public. I'm doing caricature drawing. I'm drawing, caricatures. So, but when you're in public and you're doing like, interacting directly with the public, you don't know what kind of person you're going to get. You don't know what you're going to deal with. So you had better have some sense of, yourself and how to behave and how to read people. So I was with a coworker. We're uh, doing the job, whatever, and we're kind of looking at the different people that are coming by and that we might do some business with. And I mentioned to the coworker like a few thoughts on this kind of person or that kind of person, and she was a little freaked out. She like snapped at me. She said, "Joe, you're very manipulative." And like I thought to myself, like, if manipulating, as you put it, and see, that's what I mean about language. If like protecting myself from assholes and psychos is manipulative, by learning how to read them, then I'm manipulative. Like I don't. It's like saying if it's kind of like the people that say like if I recognize patterns and that makes me a racist, then that kind of thing. Um, and that kind of, in a way, it sort of upset me only insofar as like there's nothing wrong with that. I shouldn't have to be made to feel guilty that I'm just trying to protect myself. Um, there's a lot of assholes out there, and if you're not careful, there's just a lot of like what's the word? Not parasites, predators. People that are instinctively looking for other people to take advantage of. I just heard about a study where criminals were shown videos of people walking around malls and saying like, which one of these people would you rob? And the criminals had certain, there's certain, like, things that they would say on average that people who didn't walk consistently or didn't dress in a sort of a consistent pattern that seemed like disheveled and uncertain of themselves, those are the ones that the criminals are going to go after. So they're already reading you. You know what I mean? Like, this is their nature. They're predators, essentially, right? And so, like, this is the problem with most whites in general, is that they don't recognize that there's predators out there who are watching them, and our country is being flooded with them day in and day out. You see what I'm saying? So, like, when you're living in a high trust society, you don't have to care about that. You can just go about your business. And that's not to say that whites are that there's no criminals in among whites or whatever. Of course there are, but um, it's just a better thing to have some sense of like street smarts. I guess is kind of what I'm trying to say here. Anyway, I really love to lecture on stuff, don't I? Let me see if you guys are chatting some more. There's quite a lot going on, man. It's a lively chat tonight, which is cool. I always like that. Be smart, not dumb. That's the simple rule, right? Very well said. Okay, that's so funny. Okay, so 0022 says follow people who will jump in the twatter conversation, right? Very good. Very good. So they can jump in. Okay, that makes sense. Eye contact is important, and it's not what you say as much as how you say it, especially to women. Especially to women. As far as people you are talking to because you respect them and want to learn from them, it's a little different in the case both dimensions matter. Okay, I agree. Cascadia says some people have real strange interpretations, don't they? That's irritating when they do. Yeah. Try to be as clear as you can. Well, the thing I find myself saying a lot is like, don't put words in my mouth. Like, I didn't say that. I whatever. That's a whole other avenue. I'm also minutes behind in the stream time, saying I'm a racist in response to being called. The word is like a black saying I'm an N word in response to the N word. So, language. Words matter. Words have power. Um, I feel as if the whole deal with the left is that they're masters of dialectic. They're masters of lies. They're masters of manipulation through language. The what do you call it? The Frankfurt School is almost all about that. What's critical theory, if not deconstructing everything? That's like so. There you go. I know you know. All right. I'm yammering a lot. I think I'm gonna need to do some other parts here. Mm. Well, that I guess fits right in. Is like so. Last night's conversation was a lot about. Well, there's a lot that we talked about, but one of the things was kind of becoming sort of culturally literate, um, in that how what makes a movement, what makes a movement legitimate. And Nullis was making points about morality. um, we all kind of contributed in different ways to that topic. It was a very, very cool conversation. um, what I was sort of saying is that there needs to be a uniformity in the education of uh, people in our culture, so that everyone in a sense has we're not the same, we're not cookie cutter, but we all have the same values, characters, and standards. So that when a politician comes along and says, "Oh, I propose this plan or policy, what have you," that just by the nature of our character, and which is sort of universal as West men or Western men, white men, we're gonna know automatically, oh, that's against our interests as white people, and or there's something immoral about it, and that's against our sensibilities as Western white people. And so just that alone will kind of suffice to keep the culture on track and keep the movement sort of unified in a sense, right? So you talk about reading books and stuff, and like there's, for me, um, like Amren, American Renaissance, Jared Taylor, his site was like my university of white identity. I when I first came into this movement, I devoured as many videos from him as I could. I went through a lot of different phases. I went through a Richard Spencer phase. I went through a Greg Johnson phase. I got into Red Ice. For me, now what I'm kind of exploring is Goyim TV, which is very hit and miss. There's some really like just like out of some dude's basement kind of video quality that is, and like not always. I can't say that everything is always quality in terms of like how legit is this information as well. But then, of course, there's like very good stuff mixed in. So you kind of have to have some sense of like, okay, what can I corroborate here? What can I know and learn? And yada, yada, yada. So you do that anyway with any kind of information. Um, so what were some of your resources for learning about white identity, white genocide, um, the deep state, the Jews, like everything and anything that is related to essentially white genocide and the dissident right? What were some of your resources, or what do you think are some of the best resources? Um, like I'm just open to checking out everybody and anything. I follow Joel Davis um, on Telegram. Uh, and I feel like you just kind of have to be open to anything that will help or give you, you know, insight, knowledge, etc. I'm obviously aware that there's divisions, and you got the Groypers over here and you got that over there, yada yada. I'm not. I don't. Information and truth doesn't depend on the person who says it. Like when Kanye West says the Jews control the media, it's Kanye West. Like he's not us. But then you realize, shit, he's out there doing more than what we've ever been able to do. On the whatever. Obviously, because he has his he's Kanye West. Da, da, da. You know, like if you have a lot of money, then people will listen to you. But I don't bemoan that. I'm grateful for what he did. Um, it was fun, I guess, while it lasted. My understanding about his recent thing with the Jonah Davis or Jonah Hill or whatever it's called, that was actually a troll. Like the ADL came out against it. Uh, like if you really want to show, when you really want forgiveness, then you gotta give us $1 billion. I don't know if the ADL actually talks like that, but so there you go. I tend to jump around a lot. I'm sorry if I jump around too much. I'll admit I am like every everyone infected with some MPs. What does MP stand for? Oh yeah, of course, no white guilt. Yeah, I went through a massive no white guilt phase for sure. The Hake Report. A lot of my friends are into that, and they keep telling me, "Oh, you gotta get into that. You gotta get into that." A buddy of mine just sent me. Why am I blanking out? Sam Hyde. Sam Hyde's got a show that's really funny. Sent me that tonight. I didn't have time to watch it though. Biospiritual Taste is here. Welcome. That is a really cool name. Metaphorically, they bench press less than 10 pounds, and we bench press 50,000 pounds and run like track every day. Well done. Less than 10. That's funny. Hales, by the way, good to see you. Welcome. All you guys, this is the best people right here, the best people. Oh, check out No White Guilt. No White Guilt clips, I think, is really cool. I love it that there's somebody that just like is able to sift through hours of Jason talking and like pull out really nice little gems. Very, very helpful. Or consider them. I mean, yeah. I say, think, and do. Jimmy says, I say, think, and do nothing within anti-white narrative unless stuff I am working on through the Go Free method. I'll admit I am like meme pathogens. Okay, thanks. I'm not as hip as you guys, you know. This is why I want to hang around cooler people. Nola says, I think we should choose the most compelling aspects from each perspective when it comes to all of these distinct content creators. White people shouldn't be divided from our own or people who are white positive. So, yeah, I'm obviously, if you know me, you know that I'm huge on kind of unite the right. Essentially, that you know our enemy is in front of us, not next to us, and I recognize that we disagree on a lot. I recognize those things. At the same time, I always look at it this way. It's like the house is on fire and we're arguing which door to take to get out. Like this isn't how it's done. That's not the way, That's kind of my sort of look at it, if you will. Yeah, okay, you go out that door and I'll go out this door, but let's just save our people, I like what Nullis is saying in terms of finding the most compelling ways. And there's so many different things we have to do. I'm a lot of us are sort of turning inward now and trying to just focus on our health, content development stuff. In order to do this, I have to kind of look at some other pages for some references. So anyway, what was I saying? Everyone's different, we all, in a sense, we have kind of like different tastes, I guess, or different personality types. And there's going to be people that jive with, no white guilt, and there's going to be people that jive with, I don't know, like Stryker or Sam Hyde or this, that, and the other thing. So I think it's good in a sense that we have all these kind of choices. I would just try to imagine though, if all of these different factions work together like a Roman legion, you know what I mean? Like if we were able to flank the enemy, if we were, do you get what I'm saying? If we would like able to kind of go into different virtual territories on the internet and take over, and be like, this is what's going on, how do we deal with Christians as opposed to pagans, or how do we deal with people in, say, Eastern Europe versus Western Europe, or people, you get where I'm going. Like there's so many different aspects of what we're doing. I feel like we need like a central hub, in a sense, that I guess is almost like planning out the battle scenes, like how do we do this? We could have like a project or a certain focus on a particular community or something and have a method and then go do it. Of course, I know Jason Kuna has been very successful with his things, but I feel like there's so much more to be done. Good evening from Kai of Bajor. Good to have you, Kai. Uh, Nola says, all I want is Hawaiian pizza. Ew, ew. Um, okay, how did this turn into Hawaiian pizza? What the hell is going on in the chat? White people shouldn't be divided. Yes. Cascadia says, agreed, there's gems within each and a bit of repetitions too, or overlapping. Yeah, absolutely. A lot also depends on, personal preference. Yes, don't worry, you're pristine. Chill around me. Da da da. Okay, looking good. Presently, I think more the better. Make any music lately? I have some tunes that I'm working on. I think I might pull the guitar out since you asked me that question. Corey says, if we viewed it as different roads leading to the same destination instead of my way or the highway. Wow, wow, man, that's highly quotable. You should, make a meme out of that, dude. That's super well said. Because we really are different. Like there's a pretty broad range of different kinds of people, different sensibilities and yada yada. Um, should I pull out the guitar and show you some songs? I did that the other day on another stream where I was like, oh, I'm working on this, you know. They're just like songs in development, essentially. It's the wrong pen. All right. I'm gonna zoom in here on this fella. This guy just got hit by a flash bomb. Not feeling too good. Just focusing for a little bit here. If I get too carried away with the conversation, then my artwork isn't as good. All right, what are you bastards talking about? Is that who's there? Who's here? We got some new folks. No. Okay. What will being? As long as a person isn't anti-white or anti-any race of people, they are fine with me. Cimarrock. This is an interesting topic about anti-race. So I'll muse a little bit on that. So one, I think, can reasonably say that it's actually all about like behavior. I think. Now, we know scientifically that races have different IQ. Um, we know that IQ is related to criminal behavior, like low IQ is. It's scientifically linked to it. And we also know that some races have lower IQs on average than others. So that mm, it doesn't predetermine all action, all behavior, but it you know creates a margin of predictable behavior, um, patterns that we see. And so, it gets when you go down that road and you're you know literally talking about race realism, then it does get very uncomfortable for a lot of people. Um, what we find is that whites generally, well, not whites is too broad of a generalization here, but let's say like conservative whites tend to be very compassionate, and they think about like kind of the rights of others, and they want fairness and justice and civility. However, a lot of people don't, and a lot of people see that as weakness, and a lot of people use that kindness against us. And so my current understanding is that we have whites should have an education on race realism. They should be honest about behavioral patterns that are harmful and anti-white, literally anti-white. So, that being the case, we can still be compassionate and loving and just and all these various things, but we have to do that for ourselves. We have to think about what concerns our people first. It's just a simple matter of like looking after your family. Um, our problem is we don't do that. We feel like, oh, we've got to feed Africa. We've got to stop global warming. We've got to blah 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 blah. Right. So all this stuff, and I know that's you guys are you don't fall for a lot of that Marxist bullshit, of course, but I'm talking like in a broader, more general sense. You could say that a lot of whites are you know in that zone, if you will. So it's tricky stuff. You meet someone who's of a different race. You haven't spoken to them. You don't know what your interaction is going to be like. And if you treat them with the assumptions that you would another white person, you are incorrect in doing that. And I'm put this like let's say I meet someone who's from Poland, like I'm gonna have more in common with him than someone from Nigeria or someone from Pakistan. You see, so like this is let's get that kind of out of the way or whatever. Um, we can't graft our ways of thinking over these other people. Um, and then of course there's people who say you know like say African Americans, they've got generations and generations of family. They're Americans. They've been around as long as we have or whatever. So yeah, it's tough because you have that sense of like, well, I should I just saw a bunch of videos on Twitter of like black people beating the shit out of white people, and I just found out about this new law that can't remember her name, Brenda Jackson or whatever. She's one of these senators who, you know, it's this like profoundly anti-white law, and essentially they, you know all the things that are going on, then you're walking into that pretty loaded. You're having all these assumptions about this person and how they're going to treat you and yada yada. So that to me is like self-defense. You need that knowledge, and then you take it case by case after that. Like, okay, is this person cool? So, and I have both. Like, when I was a teacher, I worked with a lot of African Americans, and some of them, were in the break room, we're laughing our asses off, and we're having a good time. And I wouldn't say that they're friends in the sense that we hang out, but we generally like each other and get along very well. Um, Granted, those particular people are obviously way more civilized and a higher IQ. And then you have students and their parents who are really just essentially trash, and like they only exist to hustle you and hurt you. You're not human to them, and nobody's really human to them. All they want is what they want, and they want it now, and they're not accountable for their behavior, and da 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 da. All this kind of stuff. Now, you know this is the thing about like Jared Taylor, is straight out of the gate he'll say like, there's low IQ whites that act this way too. Low IQ is associated with these kind of behaviors. So I guess I'm feeling like let's be logical about it. Let's not go into this. If you truly have no white guilt, you really, really are free, you've gone free, then you can do this. You don't have to kind of like approach race relationships apologetically straight out of the gate. Of like, I don't hate people because of their race. Hate itself is obviously a very natural thing, and it has a biological role to defend us. Like I'm not I don't like hating people or anything for that matter. It's psychologically, physically, spiritually, obviously unhealthy in a way. But it's irrational and even cruel in a sense to tell people not to hate other people for how they were treated, but not for their race though. I don't think. I mean, you can say like, okay, people of this race are this way in general, and therefore, and I hate those attributes. I don't like, I don't like XYZ PDQ. Um, and that's your prerogative. You can be that way. Um, but you see where I'm going with this? It's like it's sort of complicated, but then in another way, it's not. Um, I have a Nullis and I. He's gonna know who I'm talking about. We have a good friend in our community who's actually like pro hate. He is. I don't know if pro hate is fair to say, but the arguments that he makes are very, very compelling and uncomfortable. For like most people, in that it's almost like a matter of like there's some kind of like warrior spirit to it in a sense. Um, like you should hate your enemies because they hate you, and if you don't hate them, you're a pussy or some kind, And there's a side, there's something to this in a way that makes you go like, hmm. It does make you kind of think, whoa, I have to reevaluate what my thoughts are on this topic. I find it very interesting, at the least. What I don't want are whites being taken advantage of. What I don't want are whites being naive. Okay, that's like my one of my major I don't know, problems with whites in general. It's just like, Nullis pointed out recently to me, that like people are starting to catch on. like whites are starting to notice that we're being attacked because we're white. And I say starting to. I know that a lot have already, but I should say that you've got like Mark Dice and who was that Walsh guy? I forget his first name. There's people out there that are essentially like, you know, conservative incorporated, and they're finally talking about whites, white issues, white demographics, the fact that we're being targeted, on and on and on. And so I almost feel as if like, oh, okay, finally now I can relax. Like now I can take a break. Like I don't have to red pill the normie anymore because these guys are going to take it from here. Is that a fair assessment? I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Like I said, I'm kind of all over the place when I chat, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, bro. All right, let's look at some comments here. Eamon Rain is here. All right, awesome. Hey, I was just talking about you. Maybe you can share some thoughts on that. I can see there are some disagreements going on, so I'll let you guys work through that. Hatred is just a strong dislike. Make them expose themselves. Okay, Imminent Rain's got that. You can take the reins on that. No pun intended on that topic. Being biospiritual incompatible isn't the same as hating or wishing all. Yeah, it's some murky waters. It's some difficult stuff to talk about, but critical, important stuff to talk about. So let's see. If it harms white people, I'm against it unapologetically. Beautifully said. I think that's just the golden standard right there. Cascadia says, I even agree with some of his points, but the way he's going about it, I don't agree with. Naive is what I'm talking about. Don't get me wrong. I like you just saying. My local bros are Ant Nats dudes that have my back. Da da da. I think we should put ourselves on autopilot just yet. I'm not sure I understand what you mean. I think we should put ourselves on autopilot, like not put ourselves on autopilot. Oh, I get your point because I said I was going on autopilot. Um, so autopilot in the sense that, like, I've done a tremendous amount of work in the past couple of years to produce content about our issue, among others. I mean, not saying I'm the best or whatever, but I guess I feel like I want to just do my art, and I would love to get back to doing music, but I think it's just weighing me down. Like it's there's a certain exhaustion that you feel after a while of doing this, and I can't quit. I can't like not be engaged in our war, I guess, our problems. Um, but at the same time, I feel as if it's almost causing disease in me. Like I'm a very very sensitive person. Like it's not in the world that we're living in. It's unhealthy to be as sensitive as I am. I internalize things profoundly, and it hurts a lot. And I think other people have ways of disengaging that I don't have. And doing this art project, for example, is a kind of mental health thing for me. Um, I feel as if like I'm at a crossroads where I'm kind of concerned, I guess, more with my spiritual health, I suppose. Um, and the shit that we're going through is so bad that like I feel like I need a little distance sometimes, you know. Um, so not checking out, but just trying to take care of myself a little bit better. And the ant nat thing, I've talked about that already in other places, so I don't. I want to make it very very clear that Jason's community is absolutely welcome in the Donald Kent world. You know, I love you guys. I admire you. You are out there doing the best you can in the way that you wish to, and what works for you. Just like what we were talking about before. And you know, I've known Jason. I did the graphics for the After Hour show, their tap. You know, so you know we've worked together. I've been on his show. He's been on my show. The man has done so much, you know, and this it's not some kind of like huge shock that people are going to disagree on stuff once in a while. You know, things happen. Like I don't agree on everything that Nullis says, and he's like one of my best friends. You know, like so like this notion that we all have to fit a certain mold is just not realistic. Um, you know, I'm not, and I would never fight him. I would never like hurt him in any way or anyone in his community. I love you guys. You know, I do have my own reasons for why I am and think and do what I do. I definitely would, I guess, call myself an ant nat in the regard that I am learning a lot from ideologies that are pro us and that I feel we can recycle or pick and choose what works for us. Um, I don't I don't let the enemy rule the dialectic. You know, if they, you know, all the you know Nazi fascist da 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 like that's leftist jargon. It's like making the word white into a dirty word. You know, I mean, these things existed in history, and it's kind of to me it's sort of weird that like oh you can't talk about these topics, you know, because the left or people will get mad at you. Like how anti-intellectual is that? You know, it's you know that just doesn't work. So for me, um, but like I don't. For me, I'm like, you do you, I'll do me, and together somehow, um, you know, it'll all come together. You know, I don't know how, but like somehow it'll all come together. So that's kind of where I'm at, I guess, right? Um, and it's really not. I mean, it's a topic I've covered and I've talked about, so I don't know how much I need to keep talking about it in a way. Um, Suffice to say, like, I mean, even like, okay, like the other night we had a guy on who was Cantonese, and I think Nullis knows the dude. He's new to me. I don't know him, but you clearly tell by his name that he's Chinese. And I thought, hey, welcome to the party. You're welcome to be here. You know, if you're for us and you can contribute to this and you are part of us, that's great. It's just like what I was saying about like when Kanye did his thing. You know, I don't care who is doing our work for us, just so long as our work is getting done. You know, I had a while back. I did a couple interviews with a guy that goes by the name Hapa Perspective. Those interviews are still on my channel. I strongly recommend you check it out. He's a very, very strong gun rights advocate. I think that if I'm not mischaracterizing him, that's kind of the crux of his entire gig. You know, is like you in the end of the day, you got to have guns because that's, you know, it's power. It's about power. You know, and he's half Chinese, half white. If you look at him, you really couldn't tell that he looks very Asian, but he's a very, very strong advocate for white well-being. Very, very strong. Super smart guy, really great heart. Very no bullshit kind of guy. Like I think some things that I learned from him was that I was naive. You know, that I believed too much in certain institutions. This is actually during like the Trump era, so I was like, oh, you know, Trump's definitely going to win, and the military won't let uh, the other guys take over, and we'll be fine, you know, all this kind of shit, you know. So as as a friend, it's kind of hard sometimes to tell your friends, like, dude, man, you're dreaming, you know, you're wrong, and you're coping, you're you know, smoking the copium or whatever, you know. It was a tough thing to learn, you know. Let's see. There's probably a ton of comments going on right now. I can't like answer all of them either. But Imminent Rain says I'm pretty sure I don't have so it's going there. William Pierce, Rockwell, Bill Rays have a lot of truth. Yeah, yeah. I don't follow. So here's one thing I will say regarding us disagreeing on what is that it comes a time when you realize like there's actually no point in trying to talk these things out because both sides aren't going to change. So it just becomes kind of like bad feeling, you know. Then it's just generating animosity, and we were just talking about like not punching right or working together or whatever. So like now's the time to kind of show that, you know. Um, you do you, you know. I That's all I gotta say. But there you go. All right. There's another side of it that like guys on our scene are pretty hardcore, like generally. Like I don't know if that's true really quite of everybody, but we're all very passionate about shit and we all want to survive. Like these are very serious problems that we're coping with. So I can see temperatures, tempers flaring, and I can see all that. You know, I feel as if like if you want to engage in constructive conversation where you feel like okay, I genuinely want to understand your view, or I genuinely will listen to your points and consider them, then you've got something to gain. You have something to grow or learn from, and that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Um, if it's more a like, there's no way we're gonna agree on things, then I'm not sure like there's even a reason to talk about stuff. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of boils down to like you do you, you know.
all's fair in love and war, and all life is love and war. I agree. I'm tired of the A versus B. Yeah, everything is getting real sick right now with our society. A lot of people are gonna flare up over petty things due to seeing a lot of messed up things all the time that cover
and that they can't control. So like this is really where we're at. This is like the temperature, of society. And if you get what I'm saying, this is part of my whole kind of like why. And check out it was the wrong term to use, but like people are like normies, especially actually, or like conservative normies. They're ready to snap at any minute right now. I feel like they're very very angry. They're angry as hell. They can't stop what's happening, and they're frustrated as fuck. And you know they'll just you know I don't know. Shit's just bad. It's just really really bad. Um, Getting worse. So you have to feel like at some point this is all gonna pop. It's gonna pop off. I don't know that there's any stopping that at this point, honestly. Yeah. I guess I'm gonna have to comment a little bit on the woman who thinks she's a man who murdered children at a Christian school. Um, one can't know everything about everything all the time or whatever, but looking at a lot of the stuff that I saw online today, it it seems as if like the far left is kind of gearing up for more violence. Um, it's just suddenly, all of a sudden, there's like this sort of like you know flux of pretty violent looking memes and whatnot coming out of the left. That's like freaky as shit, and like militant. They're guns and sort of Antifa level garbage. Where I mean, our guys like to say, "Oh, you wouldn't even know how to shoot that thing," or But well, we saw what happened today. Or did we? I mean, was that fake? I don't know. Was that was that some kind of psyopy thing, or are we being played? Shit's so fucked up right now that I don't even know that for sure. I saw something on Twitter where somebody they showed a photo of that girl going into the school wearing like blue Puma sneakers, and then coming out she was wearing like black and red Vans sneakers. Like not coming out, meaning like after they had shot her, presumably. And now it's like, oh shit, now we got a new, conspiracy thing here. Like, what's going on?
There's such a thing as conflict of interest, right? I mean, if the goblins don't have sufficient reason, why would they let us be? Why aren't we aren't going to convince them with memes? I saw the video too, and I still feel a little off from the watching it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Well, I get what you mean about not infighting, but around normies. Do you talk to them strategically or give them exaggerated benefit of the doubt? I don't know if you're talking to me or Imminent Rain, but I have my own strategies for talking to normies, and it all depends on where they are on the kind of spectrum of like how racially aware they are. Um, that's like a whole topic in itself. I I think that I've been maybe too dramatic or too much too soon with some people, and that always backfires. But with others,
it's more of just showing, like, I'm not ashamed to talk about this and I'm aware of these things, and just demonstrating like courage and saying like we can talk about this, we need to talk about this. And they maybe don't want to, and they use they'll go through the usual patterns of, yeah, but not all everyone, or what about the good ones, and yeah, but World War II and slavery and and all the brainwashed shit. And you can pretty quickly destroy all of that with facts. And then if they make it past that stage, then you're onto something. You can actually perhaps have like a real conversation.
I met people where they are. I meet people where they are. That's the best approach. I think what you mean applies here and around normies. The other way applies with them. I think you guys are. This is more between you guys having a talk. So I'll let you talk, and there you go. I think I might want to put different music on though, something a little more fun. Um, Hopefully the YouTube music copyright checkers are not listening anymore, and I can go put on some music that I like. um, what kind of music do I want to hear? Tough to say. All right. All right, we got some cool tunes coming in. A little prog rock. You guys into prog rock? Move that over for you. I meet people where they are. I agree. See, that's interesting. The topic of like meeting people where they are, talking to the normies. And then the discussion we had earlier about dialectic and the use of language and like intuitive approaches where you're reading the body language and such. It all plays in. So we, in a way, have to have these skills, right? So remember when? Oh, I like King Crimson. Good stuff. Remember when nobody used the word anti-white, and then like I don't know if maybe I don't know if it was Tucker Carlson or somebody, it went mainstream, and we all cheered. We were all like, "Oh, this is it. This is great. This is a huge victory. You know, good start. Something, something." And now it's really, really taken hold. So I feel as if like we're obviously way ahead of the curve. So we should kind of like think through or feel it out in terms of like maybe, well, what's next? That's always kind of my question. What's next? If we taught them the word anti-white, what else can we start pushing? And I would say like it's fine and good that anti-white is now part of the mainstream dialectic, but I'm always about like results and stuff. What do we do? What message are we trying to send people? What do they have to do in order to free us? You know what I'm saying? And
there's terms like racial divorce. There's like a lot of language that we have that isn't really out there yet. So that I think that could maybe be an interesting topic or an interesting question for us to grapple with.
Okay, what does it say here? No, it says, Rain, I can only imagine who you are visually. I'm missing the context. I have a heavy bag of gym.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like that. The music. Um, Huge Yes fan over here. This is me. Um, I'd love to actually engage more in this conversation. It's just really, really hard to concentrate on this type of work and get into the nitty gritty of what you guys are doing. Um, I think there's enough brain power in the chat though, where you guys have got it covered. You know what I mean? Um, I would say that Imminent Rain is really a great guy to talk to on this particular topic because he's got a very, very well-rounded view. You know, he's you know, well read on Jason's work and much more. You know, he's just done he's done the work, and he's a super bright guy. His heart's in the right place. So even if you don't agree with him, you're still kind of in good hands in terms of being able to work through the topic. You know, yeah, and we've we when I say we, that I mean like the pillar artists of the White Art Collective. We've had this discussion on our own, you know, in private, I guess, or whatever, and on Telegram, quite a lot actually, I'd say. So we've really covered a lot of these topics in depth. Um, and obviously, all of us only want what's best for the movement and for our people. It's We're not coming from a place of like I'm right and you're wrong, and it's not an ego thing. You know, there's a lot of mature people here, so you're in good company. You know, um, yeah. One thing that's fun about what I'm doing is adding the shadows, like just outlining the characters kind of dry, but then when you go in and you put all the like the muscle lines and the details, the shadows, the expression, and all this various stuff, that's when it gets exciting. Yeah. Mm. So I guess I'll just kind of I should just shut up, or if I should muse on some other things. Maybe do a little autobiography chat. I've been using these shows to talk about my life experiences. Um, hmm,
Hmm. Let's see what we're talking about here. Corey says, I'm sure Imminent Rain will back me up on this because it sounds like he's been at this a long time here. We have tons of people awake to our struggle now than we had two and a half decades ago. It's good. It's great to see progress. What's horrible though is how bad it has to be to see progress. You know what I mean? Like, I think you know what I mean. You know, it's just, I guess this is just the nature of it. Like when you're comfortable, you're not going to change. You know what I mean? Like, it's just suffering, tragedy, pain. You know, somehow or other, those things function for change. So I'm just gonna muse on something that just popped into my mind. Um, some years ago, when I was just kind of, you know, this is like, um, you know, Trump was in office. I think it was like maybe 2017-ish. I was, I just got involved with Comicsgate. I was illustrating a Kickstarter project with John Della Rose, and I was working a comic book convention, and it's a big comic book convention, like, you know, 2.5 days, major movie stars, you know, blah blah blah. And I'd been working them for years, so it's not like a new thing or whatever. But it's an interesting story. So, and I obviously I can't name names and whatnot, but um, okay. So for starters, I was very, very well known and very loved in this particular comic book community, and blah blah blah. So I was just a, you know, part of the scene kind of thing, and well loved and well known or whatever. And anyway, there was a an editor from Marvel Comics there. Now, when you work at a Comic Con, you rent a table and you go in early, and you know you're sort of, you know, you're working it, so you got like a pass or whatever, and you actually get to meet the movie stars and the editors and the famous artists, and it's kind of neat, right? You know, so I went over before the doors opened up. I went over to one of the this editor, and he's a very, very cool guy, older dude, and I'm chatting with him. You know, I'm showing him my artwork. He's enjoying it a lot, and I said to him, "Do you know what Comicsgate is?" And he's like, "No, I never heard of it. What is that?" And so I go on to explain to him about, like, you know, the politics and how it's essentially sort of, what's the word, like, moderates and right wing people kind of walking away from, I guess, the comic book culture because they hate all the woke shit, right? And this dude like completely identified with that. Straight as soon as I said that, he's like, "Oh yeah, I totally, you know, I feel that, you know." And little did I know that the guy sitting at the table right next to him was a like a
big time, well known, notorious lefty, like a hardcore lefty, who, while I'm talking to the editor, he's eavesdropping on the conversation, and he's like furiously typing it onto like Twitter or whatever about, oh, this dude just came over and he's talking to the Marvel editor about Comicsgate, and like this, you can just imagine, like he's a leftist, so like he's blowing it way out of proportion, and he's, just like, just doing the normal behavior that you see from these kind of dweeby losers, and like creating this gigantic like fuss about, oh, this dude who's doing this thing. So that day, another guy came in who is a comic book creator, hardcore leftist. He made like a Santa Claus comic book where Santa Claus was actually Karl Marx. Yeah, so like he knows what he's talking about. He's like explicitly communist. And I'd seen him around. Like I probably had said a word or two to him, whatever. He's just, another one of the creators. And he read the text, and he came in to kind of like, like he was like sort of stalking the place to see like, well, who the fuck said this and who did that, and he's a confrontational, that kind of thing. So he comes in and he finds out it's me, and they have their little meeting or whatever. I don't know. He figures out it's me. And then he starts, texting his thoughts on me and this and that. And he goes out and he's like publicly saying, like, don't go to these conventions because they host Nazis. And I had no idea any of this was going on. I'm just working my table. I'm having a good time. Everything's honky-dory. Until like I get home later and I get an email from the guy that runs the event, who's essentially he's like a work buddy in a sense, because I've been working these events for years. He and I actually did comics together. I published in one of his projects. Great guy, all good, right? And then he's like, do you know what's going on? I'm like, whoa, what are you talking about? What's going on? And so he shares all this information with me, all the texts and shit. And he says, I want to ask you if you could just please let me handle this. Like, this is my business, right? This is my company. I it's my job or whatever. I do this. And this guy is trying to ruin my business. He's trying to tell people, don't go to my conventions because I host Nazis. And the dude has known me for years, like, who runs the convention. He's like, so I know you're not a Nazi or, so just, you're cool, but like, let me handle this. So, I'm like, wow, this was sort of my first interface with, I don't want to say Antifa, but like with like some kind of aggressive asshole lefty who is trying to ruin me and this other guy. And so, okay, I'll lay back. I'll just kind of let you do whatever. And of course, I'm watching online, like how the conversations are going or whatever. And, it was, not nice, like the way that these guys were kind of interacting with each other. The dude had to really, defend his business, and he did really well. I was really, really, like, pretty impressed with how he handled it. He'd never had to handle anything like that before. Like, it was kind of shocking. It was shocking to all of us. So that happened, and then, like, the crazy thing about it is that at that time, it sort of kicked off a new phase in my art career, I guess, where now I'm working with John Delarose. I'm making money working with Mark Brahman, and I'm off and running. I'm getting paid to do comics, which is what this thing's all about. And so I'm like, okay, should I go to the convention or should I stay home and work on comics that I'm getting paid for? So I ended up never going back to the convention, just simply because like I'm making more money staying home and actually making comics. Granted, they're other people's comics, meaning like I didn't write them, I don't publish them, I just get paid to illustrate them. So I don't know, it just always struck me as kind of odd. It probably looked like I like retreated in fear or some shit, which of course I didn't. That was never. It's just not how it worked out. But yeah, that was my first taste of dealing with these assholes. And when this book comes out, they're gonna come out of the fucking woodwork. They're gonna be all over this. They're gonna be all over this. So I don't care. Like I don't care. Um, you can't stop the flow. Can't stop the truth. Will we ever reconcile with the left? There's a good question. Will we ever reconcile with the left? I suppose not, right? I mean, I don't. They're obviously not looking for it. You talk to people whose countries were invaded by communists, and that's not even a question. It's like. But there you go. That whole like white instinct to like, can't we just get along? Which is an odd way to quote that, but. Anyway, let's see what I'm doing here. I'm doing this. Okay. Man, how long is this show going on? Almost 2 hours, guys. Are you going to make call-ins available for us someday? Were you the one that asked me that yesterday? Somebody asked me. This is a very, very good question. Welcome to Stephanie Love. How can I answer that? Call-ins, like actual phone call-ins. Which convention was that? Well, I can't tell you because then I would dox myself. I guess how I would need to know like the technology of that. Like how would I do that? If you can tell me how to do that, I think I could possibly do that. I'm doing it with the chat per se. Like if you guys have questions. Imminent Rain's talking kung fu. Don't get me started. Could tell how second nature this is for you. You draw while talking without messing up at all. It's like juggling and riding a unicycle, my man. No worries. Glad you guys could just be civil. I'm very happy about that. I really would like to do call-ins. That's a cool idea. I want more audience engagement, like a lot more. But call-ins, I have to figure out like the technology for that. I don't know how else to put that. Thoughts on the Nashville shooting. So I talked a tiny bit about that earlier. So here's the deal. Whatever the fuck trans is, it's a mental illness that almost inevitably leads towards suicide. It's a very terrible thing. It's a very, very, very terrible thing. As you can see, like it's mostly white people that are trans too, right? It's not it's not something you see predominantly in like other communities that I'm aware of, not in America anyway. So it's just another attack on our people. It's another front of the war on whites. Okay, so it's now getting weaponized. Now I think that these people have been pretty insane for a good while now. But with this girl doing this shooting, that I think is going to open the gates to some very, very bad shit. There's a lot of kind of LARPing. I'm hoping that it's LARPing um, by so-called trans people, and the whole like just the dialectic the left uses of protect trans kids, protect them, they're in danger, they need medical care. It's not fucking care, okay? And protect them from who? From what? From people that are stopping you from butchering them in everything is, we're living in opposite land. Everything is the opposite of the truth. And like this is the whole thing that goes back to the discussion on language creating reality. Now for these fucked up people, somehow they bought into this, and it's just gone farther and farther and farther down the road. And now they have this psychotic anti-Christian sentimentality where it's okay to kill children. And I mean, they use the word Christ cucks, kill a Christ cuck, or give a roundhouse kick to a Christ cuck, like cuck isn't even your fucking word, like that's like we use that word to insult the left. What the fuck are you even talking about, So shit's dark right now. It's very, very dark. And my guesstimation is that it's going to get worse. There's going to be copycat murders. Um, Now, I was talking a little bit about how there is apparently there's some evidence that this so-called, anyway, this shooting um, was actually fake, and that, now I'm not saying that it is fake. I don't, don't like misquote me or whatever. But I saw something on Twitter today where it was a photo of this woman's shoes, and she's going into the school wearing Pumas, and she's coming out. Well, she not coming out, but when she was laying on the floor, supposedly dead, she's wearing this other brand of sneaker. I forget the kind. And so you're like, whoa, okay. I'd have to go back myself and actually look at the footage. There's a question of like, how or why did this footage come out so quickly, and how come like there's no footage from a lot of these other shooting events? Now, so I don't want to go down a rabbit hole that I don't have enough evidence to have any intelligent conversation on that particularly. But anything fucking goes these days. You know what I'm saying? Like anything goes. You just don't know until you know. And I wouldn't put anything past them either. Like I would say essentially, these trans people are definitely like MK Ultra level ready to go. You know what I'm saying? I think this is it smacks of MK Ultra. Like these sicko weirdo sexualized people that cannot they don't live in reality, but they want to force you not to live in reality. you know and this is it's fucking dangerous. You know what I'm saying? So I think we're headed into a new level here. The shit is, it's like this shit's so like off the chain right now on so many levels. Like it seems like every week there's another train wreck somewhere. There's another like chicken factory that goes up in smoke. Something. There's these like toxic spills, these explosions. It's terrorism. We're living in terrorism. This is domestic terrorism is the next phase of the war that we're in, and it's fucked up that like people can't see this. They can't see this. It's largely just simply because they're uneducated. They don't know the plan, and they're like, "Oh, it's boy, what a coincidence that this, there's another one. Oh no, there's another one. Oh, blah 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 blah." And like the lack of attention. Oh my God, the thing with like what's his face? Um, what's the guy that calls himself President Biden? His like so-called press meeting, or not press meeting, his little speech yesterday. You could not be more insulting. There's just a shooting, and he's joking and laughing and smiling and talking about ice cream, and just he's delighted. He's so happy, and everybody's laughing and loving him. It's so hurtful to behave like that at a time like this. It's sickening. And of course, he talks about like trans people as like the fucking vanguard, like I support you and blah 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 blah. Like shit's off the chain, guys. It's bad. Things are severely bad right now. So I don't know. They always say like stay out of the cities and this and that. Like, we're gonna have to be more and more vigilant.
To be quite honest with you about that. So there you go. That's my thoughts on that topic. Nobody taught us about 4G warfare. Exactly. I wonder why. Good point. Turbo Trad Rise. What a kick-ass name that is. I'm so happy you're here joining us. Pistol Brace. I saw the shoe thing. Yeah. So you guys are cooking. There's a lot that you're talking about. Do you mean the chocolate factory? Yeah, I do mean the chocolate factory. Like, why would they blow up a chocolate factory? That's weird. Other than to put toxins in the environment. They don't want to teach you the tactics they're using on you. Yes. What's like so fucked up is like how we in the dissident right know pretty much all of this shit, but we are the most silenced, the most marginalized, in the political landscape. And the right wing is obviously, like I'm talking about, like, you know, Ben Shapiro and Joe Rogan and like, the normie right wing. They won't talk to us, right? I mean, we know why Ben Shapiro won't, but like, it's people could, we're over here, we're in like a glass box screaming and screaming, like, this is what's going on. And I don't know, it's just every time I see any kind of thing about like white identity or any of these topics, I'll spam these accounts and say, well, why don't you talk to someone in the white identitarian movement? Why are you have all these things to say about it, but you won't interview anybody, who is actually a figurehead or an influencer in this area. It's just so fucking annoying. I don't know, it drives me crazy. I guess, but so check the chat. Then I went to right wing. Yeah, right wing, right.
The fake right. Ooh, kosher conservatives. Well done. Well said. Ziotards. Oh, dude. Ziotards. Let's make like a comedy band called Ziotards. Judeo Christians. In this comic book, the corporate sponsor of this superhero is called Judeo Christian News. It's nostalgic for me to see an artist drawing on real paper. Yeah, instead of on a digital board. Do you think it's moral to let someone commit suicide or moral to stop them? Whew, that's heavy, man. It's very interesting because, oh boy, I'd say suicide is one of the very, very worst things you could do on a spiritual plane in terms of like the future of your soul. Um, let's say I jumped on a grenade to save some people's lives, and I'm dying slowly and painfully. I could ask you to shoot me and put me out of my misery. I think that is a moral suicide. You see where I'm going with that? Like it actually has a kind of a meaning in a sense, you know. Um, that in some sort of way is almost noble and compassionate, you know. I don't know if noble is the word, but it's certainly compassionate. I think it would be, depending on who they. I don't. You guys are having such a good conversation. I'm like, I want to stop drawing and join the conversation. Oh, I tell you, just can't win over here. And now we're back to the classical music. Imminent Range. Should I put some hee haw on? Maybe some hee haw songs. We were having a funny conversation earlier about, God, I don't know, country music or something or other. And I don't know if you guys are familiar. There was a show in the '70s called Hee Haw, and I would imagine you should know, you know, what it is or that it existed. But I just love the fact that you know that's like just white people and being unapologetically white. Of course, they don't. You know, people we don't sit around going, "I'm white," you know, and I'm. It's like no, you know, but I just love how this show is just very innocent. Yeah, a lot of it's corny and stuff, but there's something charming about just the purity of that, you know.
Let's see what else is going on up here. Chicken soup for the ear. And so look up a good RAC album from Scott and Steve's. Imminent Rain. I'm in the process of reading Lord of the Rings. Movies are pretty damn good. Yeah. Oh, old episodes of The Rifleman. Good stuff. Which one do I like? Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke's the one that I like. Yeah, Gunsmoke is. The Rifleman's got its own kind of theme with. It's sort of a father-son theme. If you know the show, you know what I'm talking about. Um, Gunsmoke is, it's this whatever, like a sheriff in a town, and it's got a whole town of characters. Not a whole town, but like a bunch of characters that make the story interesting, and then of course they change different adventures and plots and new people on every week or what have you. Let's see what's going on here. Have you seen Little House on the Prairie? Oh yeah, great. I mean, that's good wholesome family TV. You know what I'm sorry what I'm saying? We don't have wholesome family TV anymore. Everything is rebellion of it's like what's the one fuck man, I'm not good at like remembering like names of these shows, but Love and Marriage, that one. So like I remember, like I feel like when that came out, and like that general kind of like the thing in the 90s where it's like The Simpsons, and just kind of I don't know, like attacking or lampooning normal families, and like kind of joking about that. It's gotten to the point where it's like, okay, now everything is that. And because you know how corporations work, they're just gonna duplicate the same fucking thing over and over. It's like when everyone's super, no one will be. The whole thing of like uh, when all shows are the same, then there's no good shows. Let's see, Imminent Rain, Avatar, The Last Airbender was a great show. I'd say there's still a few good ones left. Boy Meets World, yeah. Married with Children, yeah, yeah.
I don't know, can anybody name like a wholesome TV show? Do they exist today? I'm saying. Yeah, I only recently got TV again. When my mom passed away last year, I just, you know, needed some kind of like veg out time. That sounds kind of stupid or crazy, but you you can't you gotta escape yourself sometimes if you're like in profound depression, you know. And my nephew hooked me up, um, so that worked out. I'm happy about that. Um, Problem is, TV sucks. So then it was like, oh great, so there's nothing to watch. um, there's some good stuff, you know, and actually I have access to like classics now and stuff too. So that's been really cool.
Part of the healing is letting go so you can finally admit there's always going to be a mom shaped hole there. It's a whole lot, lot of no fun. Yeah, I'm after a year. I'm coming to terms. Uh, it's tough even now to talk about it without crying. So I don't know that I want to do that. But um, people who followed that situation when it happened know that there were some much larger consequences related to that. My family, um, and it's pretty. It's just it's gonna put a cloud over the whole show. So I don't think I really want to go into that right now. But I appreciate your kind words, though. It's a thing. Um, I kind of have my own methods of dealing with the situation. A lot of people will say like, "Oh, she's still with you," and da da, da, but she actually is still with me. And there's things that if I said you'd think I was crazy. You know, like there's just stuff that goes on in my life that mm, I just I can't really talk about without people thinking I'm crazy. So um, I don't know. We all have to deal with these things at some point. Something that I do want to recommend. Um, I've been doing research on, and I don't. There's probably a name for this, but there are people that research death. Um, there's a God. I should have saved this video. This is really bumming me out. But so there's a dude who studied this field for 20 years. 20 years of interviewing people that had near death experiences that died and came back to life. That's freaking incredible, dude. 20 years of it. So, after that much time, there's patterns that come up. There's things that happen over and over and over, and one, you know, is compelled to believe that okay, this is what's going to happen when you die, or something similar to this. There's something going on here, and so that's for me. That's been very very helpful. Um, there's members of my family that are not at all coping with this in a healthy, positive way, and we're different people. We have different ways of thinking and being, and there's like really nothing I can do. You can't help people that don't want to be helped, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? I would really like to, but some people just have they're just not ready. They're just not ready. It's sad, but it's true. Um, and I feel like there's really you don't have to suffer as much. Like the whole missing your mom kind of thing is like that's not going to go away per se, but you even that there's a side of you that's like, you know what, uh, like celebrate all the great things that you did, and also live your life in such a way as to create good memories. Um, I have this sort of saying that I use where I say that essentially everything is just a photograph. Everything is really just a memory yet made. You know what I'm saying? And you have to have a wonderful catalog of great memories, in your life. So this is it's sort of a takeaway from the whole thing. I can really muse a lot on death and these things. So, but I'm not sure that's
most enjoyable thing to hear on a show. Oh, time for commercial. No, I always try to talk over the commercials so they don't get to use my show for their blah blah blah. It's weird in a way that like we have to live in a world of commercials. Isn't it that like you have to kind of sell yourself and you gotta be a certain way and talk a certain way and it just seems like couldn't we just be honest all the time? I guess not. I guess that's not really what money is about. Yeah, that's you learn more and more that like it would have been better to be a farmer. It would have been better if I had a life like that in a sense that you know I could be more in control of my destiny rather than the government or something. Well, I don't know how much more of your time I should take. Are you guys enjoying this, or I think this is? I'm gonna rename this show the Imminent Rain Show. Dude, I wanted you on the show, man. If you were actually on the show, we could have been talking. It would have been much better. Gonna need to head out. Let's see. Well, I'm glad you guys are having a good time. That means a lot because I want community, and if maybe these shows are a chance for us to kind of meet some new people, hang out with some other people, you know, talk about various things that matter to us, you know. But it's 185 minutes and going, so I'm glad you came, Imminent Rain. You are definitely my brother. All right, guys, I'm gonna have to wrap it up. I love you all. Peace out, Crusader. Thanks so much. You are the best. Thanks for coming. Thanks to a lot of the new names that have showed up. Definitely check out my other stuff. There's so much here. There's so much here, and there's so much more coming. So it's just really, really cool to be building this community with like super cool people. Yeah, so much more to come. So there you go, man. On that note, I believe I will say good night and keep on rocking in the free world. Okay, gang? All right, cheers. Many blessings. Thanks, Corey. We'll see you guys.